That time I got reincarnated as a true dragon by NautyManu. Chapter 88. Milim's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to our dear Milim. Happy birthday to you, everyone said while clapping as they watched Milim blow out the candles. Today was Milim's 15th birthday and Seal made a 5-layered cake especially for her. Come on now, eat it and tell us whether you like it or not, Rimuru said as she encouraged her to take a bite. So how was it? Rimuru asked with a smile. Well, she didn't need to ask that question as Milim's wide grin was all the proof they needed to know how much she liked the cake. It's delicious, this is the best birthday ever, Milim said as she jumped happily. I think you said that your last birthday was the best. Wait, was it the one earlier? Veldora asked as he thought about it. But he thought a lot about it as he was slapped on the head. Ivaraj, who slapped him, said exasperatedly, she always says that each birthday. Oh, that's right, I forgot about that. Kuhahaha, Veldora said with his usual laugh. Honestly, I think you are more of a child than Milim. When will you even grow up? Ivaraj said with a resigned voice. With all those years she was with him, he didn't change one bit. If anything, he seemed to have gotten even more childish. Kuhahaha, now don't say that. I know you like me just the way I am, Veldora said with a cheeky grin. After reading all those romance mangas, he picked a skill or two. And just as he expected, Ivaraj's face turned red and looked away from him. What are you saying, you dummy? She said in a small, barely audible voice. Veldora's grin widened as remembered a saying his elder brother said, girls are cutest when they are all shy and embarrassed, and he wholeheartedly agreed to that statement. While Veldora and Ivaraj flirted with each other, they completely forgot where they were. Rimuru had to cover Milim's ears while she was eating the whole cake from hearing their conversation and get diabetes. While Velzard and Velgrand were looking at Veldora in amazement. They never knew their little brother as such a smooth talker. They couldn't help but looking at their own husbands and was instantly enraged. Guy and Rudra were playing a video game at the side. They were like two teenage kids who came to have a slumber party. They completely forget about their partners as soon as they meet each other. These two need to understand who they are married to, Velzard and Velgrand thought with annoyed expressions. They're worried that if they left these two alone for long they might even get married. Rimuru, who was watching all this, had a smile. A family bonding time like this was quite rare these days. Due to the fact both humans and demons' war was at its peak, she didn't see these four for quite a while. If only Veldanava and Lucia were here, then everything would be perfect, she thought with a sad smile. As though she was sensing Rimuru's sadness, Milim, who was eating, stopped and looked at Rimuru. She then took a piece and presented it to Rimuru and said, Auntie Rimuru, you don't have to be so sad, here is a piece for you. Even Velgaya picked up a small piece with its tiny claws imitating Milim. Rimuru chuckled as she ate the pieces of cake that were presented to her. She would never say no to a piece of cake after all. After she ate the delicious cake, Rimuru looked at Milim's adorable face and asked excitedly, so Milim, what time it is? Milim tilted her head, asked cutely, isn't it party time? Rimuru chuckled at her adorableness. She then said while pinching Milim's nose, not quite, what do we do when we are finished eating the cake? Milim's face lit up as she said, it's time to unwrap the gifts. Yep, that's right, Rimuru said as she showed the big gift box that was placed in a corner to Milim. Milim excitedly ran towards it. She then began to use her hands to unwrap it in a matter of seconds. When she opened the box, she couldn't help herself from screaming in excitement. At the center there is a black kimono with elaborate gold and purple detailing and wide, flowing sleeves edged with gold patterns. White fur trim lines the shoulders, adding a touch of opulence. A purple belt with intricate patterns and a delicate white flower design at its center is included to cinch the waist. Gold and red arm guards with ornate designs are also present, blending decoration and protection. Completing the ensemble is a golden crown with a central red gem and two smaller protruding spikes, ready to adorn the wearer with a majestic touch. Milim turned to Rimuru and asked excitedly, Auntie Rimuru, is this really for me? Can I really have this? Rimuru nodded with a smile. She and Seal went through an extra mile to make those clothes. Those clothes are made from a divine spider's silk, so they are very comfortable for the wearer. Furthermore, these clothes are quite sturdy. And after a few years they would be indestructible after being bathed in Milim's aura. And most of all, they are stylish. Rimuru always wanted to make Milim wear some good clothes and not go around in her swimsuit like Get Up. But she was strangely adamant of not changing her outfit those days. So Rimuru thought this time she might as well change that. "You guys are the best," Milim said as she hugged Rimuru and Seal. "Ha ha ha, as long as you like it," Rimuru said as she ruffled her hair. After a while Milim went back to see what else was inside the big box. After rummaging through a bit she found some more presents. There were some shiny and beautiful jewelry, some picture books with some manga in the mix, some toys like action figures from her favorite manga, etc. After seeing all those gifts she turned to the rest of party and said with a happy smile, "Thanks everyone, I love everything you gave me." This brought a smile into everyone's faces. Milim's charm is too much for anyone to bear. She is a bundle of joy that lights up everyone's day. This is the best day ever, Milim thought with a happy smile. She likes it when everyone is with her. But sadly they would only come here twice a month or year. When she asked about this, her auntie Rimuru told her that they are quite busy to come here every day. "I know, why don't I go and meet them next time," Milim thought. She was quite curious about what the outside world looks like after reading all those mangas. "I will ask Aunt Rimuru about it tomorrow." Milim decided. She would ask about it first thing in the morning and give her dear Aunt Rimuru a headache. Chapter 89. Training Milim. "So let me get this straight. You want to go visit your other uncle and aunts all by yourself?" Rimuru asked while feeling a headache coming over her. Although she knew this day would come, she certainly didn't think it was this early. Originally Rimuru was going to let Milim go to the Cardinal World when she was a bit mature. Maybe after she is 18 years old. After all, she didn't think trapping Milim here for the rest of her life was the best decision. No matter what she is destined to do, she needs the experience to live her life. Strength isn't everything in this world. Rimuru sobbed before looking at Milim with a serious expression. "Milim, while your idea to visit them is sweet, did you think of the dangers you could get into while doing that?" Milim tilted her head and asked, Isn't it just going to see them? Why would there be anything dangerous, Auntie?" Sighing at her ignorance, Rimuru explained, "My dear, you should know both Rudra and Guy are leaders of two opposite camps. Their factions have been fighting more than hundreds of years. So you may get involved in their conflicts. And if you were hurt because of that, I would go and destroy both of them. So tell me, do you still want to go?" Hearing this, Milim hurriedly shook her head. She knew the hierarchy of this family. Everyone has to listen to Auntie Rimuru or they will be punished. She once saw Uncle Veldora being punished, and that still brought her nightmares. He was banned from reading any manga and eating any sweets for an entire week. He was even banned from going to the Cardinal World. And furthermore, he was ordered to improve his strength in that week or his punishment will be extended for another week. "Well, it wouldn't be a problem if you are strong enough," Rimuru said as she looked at Milim's afraid face. She didn't want Milim to think that she was banning her from leaving. "Really, does that mean I can go? I am already strong," Milim said excitedly as she showed her fists. What she said was true. Although Rimuru didn't allow her to go to the Cardinal World, she occasionally let Milim train with lower-class demons. And with her raw power she often destroys them in seconds. "Well, sorry to burst your bubble, Milim, but you aren't that strong enough to survive in the Cardinal World," Rimuru said, shaking her head. Although Milim's raw power is strong enough to defeat an A-rank monster, but that much isn't enough to survive in the Cardinal World, especially with her background. Milim was disappointed yet again hearing her aunt's words. If it were someone else she would have dismissed it as they underestimating her. But if Rimuru said it, she would have been true. "Well, worry not, I will train you so you would be strong enough to survive on your own no matter the circumstance," Rimuru said as she looked at Milim's face light up yet again. This girl is just like her mother, Rimuru thought as she remembered Lucia's expressions changes like Milim. Should I also try to teach her healing magic, Rimuru thought suddenly. Lucia was an excellent healer and her aptitude towards life magic is something even Seal had to marvel at. And as Lucia's daughter Milim may have a similar aptitude towards life magic. In her previous life Milim didn't use much magic. Her main fighting ability is her swordsmanship and her handling of stellar mana. And apart from those two, Rimuru had never seen Milim using any magic at all. Not even a simple light spell. Well, it's worth a try, Rimuru thought as she instructed Seal to make a training regime for Milim. When it comes to getting the best results, Seal is the best. The next day, "Wake up, Milim. It's time for training," Rimuru said as she stirred Milim from her sleep. At Rimuru's continuous efforts, Milim finally woke up. "Why do we have to wake up this early, Aunt, when the sun hasn't even risen yet?" Milim said as she rubbed her eyes sleepily. Vegaya too joined as it mimicked Milim. When Rimuru was waking up Milim, she also woke Velgaya up too, who was beside her. Rimuru looked at them speechless and asked, "Hey, I wasn't the one who said they wanted to grow stronger so they could go to the material world. And besides, we have a restaurant to open. Sorry, hurry up and get dressed in your training gear. After that, meet me in the arena," Rimuru said as she handed a pair of specially made training clothes to Milim. Milim grumbled as she wore those clothes. Although they're very comfy, Milim felt they're a bit too bland. They looked like tracksuits she came across in those mangas. As she headed towards the arena, she began to get the feeling that her body is getting a bit heavier. She turned to Velgaya and asked, "Hey Gaia, did you feel it's getting a bit harder to move? It's like we are getting heavier all of a sudden." Velgaya tilted its head as she pondered on what Milim said. Then it shook its head after sensing nothing. It didn't feel anything strange. "Really, but I feel myself getting a bit slower," Milim said as she furrowed her brows. Her instincts were telling her something was wrong. "Kiu Kiu," Velgaya said as it looked at Milim. Due to it still being a youngling, it couldn't speak yet. So baby sounds was the best it could do for the moment. "You mean I get that feeling because these clothes are too restrictive and not like the ones I usually wear," Milim said as she translated what Velgaya wanted to say. Since both of them are practically inseparable, they could understand each other without any difficulty. And in short, apart from Milim, no one could understand what Velgaya was saying. "QQ." Velgaya nodded as though saying, "Yeah, that's right." Milim thought about it for a long time before agreeing to what Velgaya said. His argument is reasonable after all. And besides, they have already arrived at the door that leads to the arena. As she pushed the door open, Milim was greeted with the familiar Greek arena. She will often come to play with Velgaya. In her they would have no problem playing hide and seek after they changed the setting a little bit. As Milim was in her own thoughts, she suddenly felt danger coming towards her from the side. She wasted no time as she grabbed Velgaya and jumped away. Rimuru always told her to trust her instincts as it would help her in times of need. Just as Milim jumped away, a dagger appeared where she was previously and impaled herself on the ground. Had Milim been a step too late, she would have been seriously injured. Just as Milim was about to breathe a sigh of relief, another dagger was flying towards her, prompting her to dodge again. This went on for half an hour. Numerous daggers came down on her seemingly from nowhere. Even her proud Milim eyes couldn't see where they were coming from. Hell, she couldn't even see them until the last moment. So she was continuously dodging with her reflex alone. So after 30 minutes she is completely drenched in sweat. Just as she was about to use one of her AoE attacks, the attacking stopped. And Rimuru, who was supposed to be here before her, appeared in thin air. She looked at Milim with a smile while having a few knives on her hands that looked exactly like the dagger that was lying on the floor.